Hello dear crypto friends, and welcome to today's video in which we are going to take a look at Bitcoin and the crypto market as a whole and try to understand what the hell is happening. Are we going to go lower now? Was this the bottom? Does Bitcoin give us hints where the crypto market is headed? Why is Bitcoin not rising despite the dollar dropping? So many questions, so let's get right into it. As always, we start with the weekly long-term chart, the long-term Bitcoin weekly chart, as always. And we see this weird pattern here where we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 red weekly candles in a row. I think this is the only time in Bitcoin's entire history, if I take a look at it, in its entire history, that we had 9 red candles in a row. I mean, here was 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, then was this green one, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it was almost 9. This green one here, if it would have been a red candle, almost would have been a red candle, and then we would have also 9. So this is quite insane what is happening. The longest red weekly streak in Bitcoin's entire history that we have witnessed here. And let us look at the moving averages. We always know that the moving average 200 is the solid support, and the weekly moving average 290 weeks is the lowest, where Bitcoin spiked in March 2020. And we could imagine that this was also the case if we draw this line back here, that Bitcoin would have touched this line in August 2015. So this is the super insane hard support line where Bitcoin will probably not go below. Now, what we want to understand is, will Bitcoin now A, go into a new rally, B, a bounce, and then everyone is getting super bullish, and then it still drops and then wobbles around bear market style, and then next rally in the next Bitcoin halving cycle in 2024? Or will Bitcoin now directly fall to the MA 290 and then we stay in the bear market and then also rally in 2024? These are the 3 scenarios which I see. I don't see many other meaningful scenarios. Now, looking at the RSI, the weekly RSI is always a good starting point to understand what we are doing, and we can see how insanely low the weekly RSI is. We are now already at levels below the March 2020 low, and it will be highly interesting when we get this weekly candle close. When we get the weekly candle close, today is Friday, so only 2 days away, Sunday night, we get the weekly candle close, and we could imagine, because look how steep the RSI is coming down here. So if I go to the next candle close, it could be actually that we are at 31. So we would really be nearing levels that we have last seen at the low in December 2018 and at the low in January 15. Okay, so we would be almost at those levels, because then Bitcoin was at 28 point something and 29. So we would be really almost at those levels. In the monthly, the picture looks much more bullish, because we soon will have a monthly candle close. Yes, the month is coming to an end. We are at the end of May. June will start soon. So we can see that the monthly RSI is coming down really steeply. And if we extrapolate this, we can see that 1st of June, if the inclination will be the same, we would be at a monthly RSI of 41.4, which, friends, get this, would be the lowest monthly RSI in Bitcoin's entire history. Yes, this would be the lowest monthly RSI that we have ever seen in Bitcoin's entire history, and that should make us very bullish, because if we really close at such a level, then I think the bottom is quite likely in, even though the weekly RSI could go lower. But the monthly RSI really making a new low should make us really bullish and should tell us, guys, the bottom is quite likely in. Even if the weekly would go a bit lower, it is quite likely that this month has been the low and that in June we will see some kind of recovery. Now, how will this recovery look? That is the question, right? That is what we want to know. We said it would be not so cool if Bitcoin would recover now. Yes, it recovers, and then it turns out to just be a bounce, and we will revisit the MA of 290 weeks, and then we wobble around and stay in a stupid bear market until then in 2024 for the next halving we go into the next bull cycle. That would suck, of course, right? So in order to understand if this will be a bounce or not, it is quite clear that we will have to monitor the situation and spot any bearish divergences that could emerge. If we now rise, right? If we start rising and the RSI starts printing bearish divergences. So for example, the way it did back here we actually had some insane bearish divergences, which were pretty big warning signs. So for example, from the top in January 2021 to this top here, the RSI, the weekly RSI actually went lower. So the weekly RSI made lower highs, whereas the price made higher highs. And this, as we know, is a bearish divergence. But not only that, even this thing here, we know that in November we actually had a new high at 69,000, which was higher than it was in April 2021. Yet look at the insane bearish divergence here in the RSI. The top here of the RSI was a lot lower than back here. So this is a crazy bearish divergence. So just from the look of the bearish divergence, it was of course clear that we would get some kind of correction and would correct for a while. But of course we didn't know that it would take so long and would be such a brutally long bearish correction. So thus we will of course have to monitor how Bitcoin behaves and how the RSI will look, right? The RSI will start moving upwards and we will have to just monitor the peaks, and right like here, if the RSI starts making lower highs whereas the price is making higher highs, then of course we should be super careful, and then it is quite likely that this will just have been a bounce and we will revisit lower prices again. Now coming to our good friend the dollar index, we see that the dollar index is indeed doing what we all wanted it to do. It has started dumping, but Bitcoin is still reluctant to react, right? We said if the dollar index dumps, then Bitcoin will start rising. So why then is it not rising? Well, friends, there is a delay in the market, and the market is still very suspicious and doesn't really believe that the dollar index will really dump. Let us look what happened the last time when the dollar index started dumping, right? For example, in early 2020, right? The dollar made this peak when there was this March 2020 low from the pandemic. The dollar started dumping, but what was Bitcoin doing in that time here? Well, Bitcoin was staying almost flat. It didn't do much. And only in the last part, starting from around here, so which corresponds to that time here, only then in the last part of this move down in the dollar index did Bitcoin then say, okay, well, it seems that the dollar index is really dumping. Let me start pumping. Okay? So it seems that there's some kind of disbelief in the markets, like I don't really believe that the dollar is really dumping, because it might be that it's just pretending to dump and then it will actually continue pumping. And this is actually what is happening now. So it's like, okay, the dollar index is dumping, but I don't believe it because it could do this here. So I assume that the dollar index will have to dump a bit longer, and then at some point the market will say, if this goes on for many weeks, the market will say, well, okay, it really looks as if the dollar index is continuing to dump. So then Bitcoin at some point will start going up. But it looks really nice. The dollar index makes a really bearish candle. If this closes like this, friends, I can tell you, this is a pretty damn bearish candle close. And this normally doesn't happen in such a way that we get immediately a recovery and go higher. Because such a bearish candle close, if we look at the dollar index's history, where did we have such a candle close? Where did we have a similar one? Well, here, for example, in May 2020, then here in July 2013, and indeed it continued dumping until July 2014. Not by much, but it was in a downtrend for 1 year. Then here also this was the case. Now, of course, here is a very impressive example. That is the same candle structure, the very same one. and then it went into a downtrend from May 2004 until December 2004. So we can see plenty of examples where such a candle close signified really a longer term trend reversal. So I don't think this will just be a small correction and immediately continue pumping. I really think that this will be a longer term correction, and we don't know of course how much the dollar will dump, but it looks as if it will be for a bit longer. Sure, it could go higher afterwards, that is clear, but it looks as if this would be a longer correction. And if we look at the monthly RSI, the monthly RSI has been one of the highest ever, in fact. But even more impressively is the monthly stochastic RSI. If we look at the monthly stochastic RSI, look at how insanely overbought it was. And the last time this happened, Bitcoin then went on this massive long downtrend. Or here we had the same situation. Bitcoin went into a downtrend. Sure, it was wobbling around. It doesn't have to dump immediately, but at some point it will go down. This was also impressively the case here. Look at this. Bam, it went down. Here also, bam, it went down. Here also, bam, it went down. Here also, yeah, it was wobbling around, but it was in a downtrend-ish structure. So we see the monthly RSI in the dollar index really speaks volumes. And if the candle really closes like this, I really think this will be a longer term thing, and the stochastic RSI will come down. The dollar index will correct for a longer time, and at some point Bitcoin will catch on. The market is a bit skeptical. It's like, I really don't believe you, dollar index. I'm quite skeptical that you will maintain this bearish trend. You could trick us, right? And the Nasdaq did something very important, friends. We had this structure here. It was kind of like a falling wedge structure. It was a falling wedge structure in which the Nasdaq was bound for quite a while. And now it looks as if it is breaking out, and we will have to monitor this situation if the Nasdaq will really be breaking out of this resistance here, because it was rejected once, twice, thrice, almost here, not quite. And this is the fourth time it is testing this resistance line. So if the Nasdaq will break through and then continue pumping, this will be also a strong indicator that Bitcoin will follow, because we have seen quite a few times that Bitcoin is not only anti-correlated to the dollar index, but also highly positively correlated to the Nasdaq. So such a falling wedge structure is normally a bullish structure, as we know. And not only that, but we see that actually in the daily chart, the Nasdaq was printing a super insane bullish divergence because we had lower lows in the price. But what did the RSI do? Yes, friends, higher lows in the RSI. And what is that? Of course, we know it already by now. It is a hidden bullish divergence, friends. And this bullish divergence normally breaks to the upside. And not only that, but we said that the Nasdaq is actually printing a longer term bullish divergence because it's making higher lows, as we can see here, right? Low, higher low, higher low. And what does the RSI do meanwhile? It's making lower lows. Look at this here. We can really see it quite clearly when we zoom in. This low was higher than this, is higher than this, right? So isn't that beautiful to see that the Nasdaq is making a super long-term hidden bullish divergence? So combine that with the ultra bearish sentiment, like everyone believes now that we will just continue dumping, like we will go down, and we have this long-term hidden bullish divergence. Something like this could easily happen, and I explained the reasons why in the last video. Has to do with the Fed rate hikes and what the Fed is saying and how the Fed is playing the market. But this is the situation, and of course, if this was to happen, if the Nasdaq really breaks out now, you can be 100% sure that Bitcoin will follow. And Bitcoin also has been doing a hidden bullish divergence. We shouldn't forget this, because here, if we look at this here, higher lows from back in 2020, but the RSI, of course, is doing lower lows. And not only that, but it's actually printing a bullish wedge structure. And when this bullish wedge in the RSI breaks out to the upside, that will signify a longer lasting bullish trend, a longer lasting one. This is not only a dead cat bounce. That's why I'm saying we should monitor what the RSI will be doing, because normally such a long structure, a breakout of such a long falling wedge structure in the weekly RSI is normally not just a dead cat bounce, normally not, but we will monitor the situation, of course, and we will make updates and try to understand if it's a dead cat bounce or not, if some divergences will appear or not. Now, what do you guess the daily chart did in Bitcoin? Of course, also a divergence. Look, lower lows here, higher lows in the RSI. Again, bullish divergences wherever you are looking. Friends, this does not usually happen in such a brutal, visible way when we are in the depth of a bear market. You don't get bullish divergences all over the place. Only if we are really nearing the end of the bear market, then bullish divergences are starting to appear. So I'm still inclined to believe that Bitcoin will recover now. It will follow the Nasdaq. The dollar index will continue dumping. Nasdaq will pump. Bitcoin will follow, and then we go to about 50K, and then it will be the question, will we dump and go lower, or will we continue to pump? And probably something like this will happen, where everyone will think, oh god, this is a bounce, but no, and then bam, we actually continue pumping. I'm inclined currently to believe that something like this will happen, but of course, friends, I cannot guarantee it as always, and I will keep making update videos all the while we are going up here and trying to spot weakness in the market. We will look also at the volume. The volume is always a very good indicator. If we get declining volume on the way up, that's not good, of course. And if we get bearish divergences in the RSI, in the MACD, we will spot them and we will try to come to a conclusion if this will be just a dead cat bounce or if we get a continued bull run. And you might be asking yourself, why am I talking so much about Bitcoin? Because, friends, Bitcoin dictates where the whole crypto market will be headed. It doesn't make a lot of sense to look at individual altcoins and then say, oh, this altcoin will do this or that. No, because it's dictated by Bitcoin. Bitcoin decides where the market is headed. If Bitcoin starts dumping, all other coins will dump. Not many coins will pump in a Bitcoin bear market. Like only a very, very few exceptions. Below 1%, maybe if there's an insanely good new project which does amazing things, maybe then that can happen. But normally this is not the case. So therefore, we just analyze normally on this channel. I analyze Bitcoin in regard to the dollar index, with regard to on-chain metrics sometimes, with regard to the Nasdaq and to the stock market. And then we understand what Bitcoin is doing. And when we know the direction of Bitcoin, then we can look at individual altcoins, right? We can look at Litecoin and XRP, Cardano, and all the other altcoins and try to understand what they will be doing. And I think it is looking pretty good for Bitcoin for the reasons I was saying. Many bullish divergences all over the place. Dollar index looks like it will continue to dump. Nasdaq looks like it wants to make a bullish breakout. Pretty good stuff going on in those apparently dark times. Be greedy when others are fearful, friends, and be fearful when others are greedy. Warren Buffett already said it. So if you found this video helpful or interesting, or you got some good information out of it, please consider liking and subscribing to this still quite small channel. I would be happy to welcome you in this illustrious round of crypto enthusiasts. And then I would say we monitor the situation, we continue monitoring the crypto market, and see you in the next update video tomorrow. Have a nice day, friends, and see you.